Hey everybody, Steve here with some sad news about one of my all-time favorite actors, Bud Cort. It's February 12th, 2026, and I just learned this morning that actor Bud Cort died yesterday, February 11th, at the age of 77. He died from pneumonia at an assisted living facility in Norwalk, Connecticut. He was born on March 29th, 1948 in Rye, New York, and his birth name was Walter Edward Cox, but he later changed his name to Bud Cort so he wouldn't be confused with actor Wally Cox, who was a popular actor at the same time. During his career, Cort appeared in more than 60 movies and TV shows. He was discovered in the early 1970s by director Robert Altman, who cast him in the now classic films MASH and Brewster McCloud. But I think for most of us, the film he's most identified with today is the 1971 international cult classic, Harold and Maude. It's one of my all-time favorite films. I've seen it dozens of times. One of just a handful of films that I've seen dozens of times. Years ago, when I was in my early 20s living in Hollywood, I used to go with friends all the time to see Harold and Maude at the New Art Theater in West Los Angeles, just down the street from UCLA. It was an art house theater that played lots of midnight movies and films that went on to become cult classics, or were already cult classics, including Harold and Maude. And I saw it there dozens of times, and I still watch it today on some of the streaming channels. It never gets old. Cort plays 19-year-old Harold, a teenager living in a wealthy family who desperately tries to get the attention of his mom by faking his own death in multiple ways that are really hilarious. Now, this is a dark comedy drama, and in addition to staging his own death, desperately trying to get his mom's attention, he's also obsessed with other people's deaths. And his hobby is attending funerals of people he doesn't know. He drives a hearse, and while he's attending some of these funerals, he notices there's an older woman who also keeps popping up at these strangers' funerals. Eventually they meet. Her name is Maude. She's 79 years old. She's a free-spirited hippie type who's just full of life and teaches Harold how to really live. They start out as friends and eventually become romantically involved, even though there's a 60-year difference between their ages. The American Film Institute has named it one of the 100 funniest films of all time, and it really is. Some of you, I think, found this channel, my personal channel, because of my other channel, which is called The Graveyard Channel, where I visit famous graves. Well, one of the famous graves that I visited, 6-7 years ago, was up in San Francisco in the city of Colma, which is just south of the city of San Francisco, where all of the cemeteries are located. And I visited the crypt of Folger coffee heiress Abigail Folger in a mausoleum at Holy Cross Cemetery. And I can't remember if I went back later to visit the filming locations of Harold and Maude, or if I visited them at the same time. Like I say, it's been 6, 7, 8 years since I was there. Actually, I've been to that cemetery a number of times. Baseball player Joe DiMaggio is buried there. Lots of famous people are buried there. But right in front of the mausoleum where Abigail Folger is buried. Now, Abigail Folger was tragically murdered by the Manson family. She was a friend of Sharon Tate, and as fate would have it, she happened to be in Los Angeles staying at the Roman Polanski Sharon Tate home on the night of the murders. And she was murdered along with Sharon Tate and the others. So I visited her gravesite, her crypt within the mausoleum. It's a very beautiful mausoleum. But right in front of the mausoleum, I happened to notice when I was watching Harold and Maude that one of the funerals that they attended was located just right in front of the mausoleum. It was out in the grounds with a lot of the tall headstones, and they were parked on the street of the cemetery that leads up to the entrance to the mausoleum. So I recognized the location where the funeral was being held in one of the scenes. So I was happy that I was finally able, after all these years, to visit the cemetery. So that's how much I like this film, that I actually wanted to go and find a couple of the locations where it had been filmed, the cemetery locations anyway. Like Harold, I've always been obsessed with death and cemeteries and funerals and grave sites myself, so of course I immediately identified with Harold. I also really like old people. I've always had older friends throughout my entire life, so I could relate to him in that way as well. There was just a lot about the film that I could relate to. Besides the fact that it was just hilarious, and I always loved Ruth Gordon. She was in a lot of films. I think, wasn't she in The Exorcist? She's just been in some, or maybe it was Rosemary's Baby. I forget now, but she died many years ago. I think she was cremated and scattered. I wasn't able to visit her gravesite, and I think it was because she was cremated and her ashes scattered. When I heard the news that Bud Cort had died, of course, my first thought was just sad to think that he was already gone. I thought he was around my age, but I'm 72, he was 77, so he was older than me, but still relatively young. At least when you're in your 70s, 77 seems pretty young. So my second thought, besides just being sad that he was gone, was to wonder where he would be buried, if he will be buried. But because he was born on the East Coast and died on the East Coast, it seems pretty likely he'll be buried on the East Coast, and I no longer really travel, so fortunately I won't be able to visit his gravesite if he has a gravesite, rather than being cremated and scattered. It makes me wonder though, Norwalk, Connecticut, I think that's probably pretty close to the cemetery where Mary Tyler Moore is buried, so maybe he'll be buried there. So his gravesite is one that I would really love to visit at some point, but even if I'm not able to, I'm sure lots of YouTubers will. I know I'm not the only fan of this film. I mean, this is a really, really popular cult classic. And I'm sure fans of the movie from all over the world will visit his gravesite if he has one, just like he visited the gravesites and attended the funeral of strangers. Fans of the movie, I'm sure, are going to do the same thing. His memory will live on forever in the movie and hopefully in a cemetery somewhere. Once it's announced, sometimes it takes 6 months to a year or even longer before famous graves are revealed. But once it's announced, I'll share it on this channel. And if by chance he decided ahead of time that he wanted to be buried at Hollywood Forever Cemetery, which seems like it would be the perfect place for his final resting place, then I'll definitely make the trip up to Hollywood to visit. So we'll see, I guess, over time. Are you a fan of the movie as well? If so, share your memories of Bud Cort and the movie in the comments section. And as always, thanks for sharing the memories, everybody, and rest in peace, Bud Cort. And thanks for all of the laughs.